amazing. Every word she says about Barack Obama is negative. I can't think of her sitting there just waxing poetic about him, complimenting, he's brilliant, he's a great dad, he was the greatest president, whatever a normal wife of Barack Obama would say. Every time she opines, it's something that reflects poorly on him, how he's insensitive, how he's not a talker, how he doesn't know how to relate to people, he doesn't keep the same schedule as she does, and now we're talking about you can have a bad...
Megyn Kelly didn't just throw out a passing criticism of Michelle Obama. She launched into one of the most uncompromising and pointed critiques you'll ever hear aimed at a former First Lady. This wasn't a case of political differences politely debated across a table. Kelly went after the very foundation of Michelle's public image, the polished, glossy, magazine cover-ready persona that's been sold to the American public for well over a decade. She peeled back the layers of curated charm and called out what she sees as an elaborate act of image control. The kind of image where every public appearance is choreographed down to the last detail, every smile practiced in the mirror, and every relatable story edited to tug at just the right emotional chords. Kelly argued that behind the beaming smile and warm, confident presence is a marketing machine as calculated as any Fortune 500 company's branding department. And this wasn't just an attack for shock value, she walked viewers through the way Michelle's image has been built and protected. In Kelly's words, those magazine spreads, soft focus interviews, and scripted speeches aren't just coincidental moments of grace, they're the result of a deliberate strategy designed to make her untouchable. By the time Kelly was done, she'd painted a picture of a carefully maintained public figure, less an organic symbol of hope and more a product of relentless brand engineering.
Just as bitter as ever. There's such a great new, spin of complaints here. Here's one from her most recent episode, which still on YouTube, she's got 200,000 subscribers. It's really amazing that now she's been doing this for how many episodes? She's been literally on every podcast of the left wing promoting it. And that's still all she's managed to.
For years, Michelle Obama has been treated by the mainstream media like modern-day political royalty. Every move she makes, from a casual stroll through a farmer's market to a high-profile gala appearance, is greeted with glowing praise. Her speeches are dissected like historic documents, and her fashion choices spark entire news cycles. But Kelly wasn't buying into that narrative for a second. Kelly pointed out that Michelle's public reception often ignores the obvious: the events are staged, the speeches are rehearsed, and the appearances are meticulously planned for maximum impact. The media, Kelly argued, seems more interested in preserving the fairy tale version of Michelle than in questioning whether the substance matches the presentation. She refused to engage in the usual celebrity politician flattery. There was no tiptoeing, no hesitant qualifiers. Kelly brushed aside the Instagram-ready soundbites and glossy magazine covers, insisting that the American public deserves to see the unfiltered version of public figures, even the most beloved ones. And in Kelly's view, when you strip away the beautiful lighting, the media adoration, and the expertly crafted talking points, the reality of Michelle Obama's persona isn't nearly as flawless as it appears.
On a podcast called Diary of a CEO. It's kind of rings a bell like a founder kind of situation. And once again, wants you to know how awful it is to be married with children.
There are just many natural reasons why marriage, infertility, trying to have kids makes things difficult. It's like I try to tell couples, of course it's hard. Just listen to what I said.
Michelle Obama has long been presented as the ultimate, down-to-earth, public figure, someone who understands, firsthand, the struggles of everyday Americans. It's a narrative that has been repeated so often, it's become a kind of cultural truth. But Kelly wasn't having it. She challenged the very core of that story, pointing out that Michelle has spent the majority of her adult life in elite circles, far removed from the realities most people face. Kelly painted a vivid contrast. While average Americans worry about paying bills, managing debt, and navigating everyday stresses, Michelle's world has been defined by lavish vacations, private resorts, and dinners with billionaires. Kelly argued that when your biggest decisions are whether the Gulfstream jet or the private yacht offers better lighting for a photo, it's hard to claim an intimate connection with working-class struggles. It wasn't a personal insult, it was an argument about authenticity. Kelly questioned whether someone who's been immersed in privilege for decades can truly present herself as an emblem of ordinary life. In her telling, Michelle's relatability isn't a reflection of lived experience, it's a polished narrative that resonates because it's been carefully crafted to do so.
Here she is interviewing Dr. Sharon Malone, perhaps better known as former Attorney General Eric Holder's wife. And therein lies the problem, as these two ladies married to two very famous men are pissed that they are not the alpha in terms of popularity and recognition.
Then Kelly turned her focus to Michelle's activism, or, as she framed it, the kind of activism that plays beautifully in headlines but often leaves little lasting impact once the spotlight fades. The prime example? The much-publicized Let's Move campaign. When it launched, the initiative was sold as a groundbreaking effort to tackle childhood obesity and promote healthier lifestyles. But Kelly argued that, over time, the campaign became more about photo ops and PR wins than tangible change. She pointed out the bureaucratic mess, the school lunch menus that left kids unhappy, and the way the program eventually drifted into self-congratulation rather than measurable progress. In Kelly's view, it was a perfect microcosm of Michelle's public career, grand gestures dressed up as transformative work, paired with media coverage that celebrated the intent rather than scrutinized the results. She wasn't dismissing the idea of promoting healthy habits, she was questioning whether the execution matched the hype.
If you're having some issues in your marriage, it's not you, it's the process of marriage. It's just all hard, because guess what happens when it all works out right? You know what you end up with? Babies. Little people with their own sense of everything. They mess you up. You love them dearly, but they're a hassle.
What? I mean, there's something wrong with this person. Like, she's seriously depressed. She has the most negative, dark outlook on life I've ever heard from a public figure. Certainly one who's been given so much.
From there, Kelly went after Michelle's publishing success, the book empire that's become one of the pillars of her brand. Michelle's memoir, sold as a raw and deeply personal account of her life, shattered sales records and was embraced by the media as an authentic masterpiece. But Kelly saw it differently. She described the memoir not as a vulnerable confession, but as a masterclass in branding, every anecdote carefully chosen to enhance the inspiring leader narrative, every story polished until it could be quoted on a Pinterest board. In Kelly's telling, it was less an intimate self-portrait and more a corporate-approved product, designed to protect the image while giving just enough personal detail to keep readers hooked. The most telling part? Kelly said the media didn't love the book because it broke new ground or revealed shocking truths. They loved it because it reinforced the image they'd already built for Michelle, an image so revered that few dared to question whether the story being told was the whole truth.
Now, Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's like, y'all still talking? He'll sit down for 5 minutes, be like, how are the boys? And the flip side of my husband, right? Because he golfs. And golfing takes as long as the first session of it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back, and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Okay. So can I just say, she stole that from a comedian who's all over Instagram. That little bit is all over Instagram. Forgive me, I can't remember the guy's name, but he does this whole bit about how he goes golfing with a guy whose wife just died, and he comes home, and the wife's like, how's he doing? Fine. Well, how would he?
Kelly then zeroed in on what she called the glaring hypocrisy in Michelle's post-White House career. On one hand, Michelle often speaks about humility, service, and sacrifice. On the other, she's built a career that reads like the ultimate billionaire's vision board, high-dollar speaking engagements, Netflix production deals, and stadium tours with ticket prices out of reach for many of the working families she claims to represent. Kelly didn't frame this as a minor inconsistency, she called it outright insulting. She argued that Michelle's influence has been maintained not by challenging the political elite, but by reinforcing it, all while presenting herself as someone standing apart from the power structures. The designer gowns, the front-row gala seats, the curated social media feeds, to Kelly, it was political celebrity culture disguised as moral leadership. And there was another point, Michelle's refusal to run for office. She insists she's not interested, yet her public appearances and political timing keep her name in the conversation. Kelly suggested this is strategic, a way to hold on to influence without risking the challenges and accountability of elected office.
Obama, listen to this.
And at this phase of my life, I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning. You know, I'm 60 years old. I've finished a really hard thing in my life with my family intact. I'm an empty nester. My girls are in, you know, they've been launched. And now for the first time, as I've said before, every choice that I'm making is completely mine. I now don't have the excuse of, well, my kids need this or my husband needs that or the country needs that. So how do I think about this next phase?
Once again, speaking a reference to her time as First Lady negatively, and I'm transitioning. I mean, an interesting choice of words, given how the internet refers to her.
From there, Kelly tackled what she saw as the cultural pedestal Michelle stands on, the idea that she's beyond critique, and that questioning her is inherently cynical or mean-spirited. Kelly's argument was that this very untouchable status is why serious scrutiny is needed. She dismantled Michelle's speeches, noting that while they're often hailed as inspiring, much of the content boils down to safe, feel-good platitudes that wouldn't be out of place in a greeting card. The pauses, the gestures, the emotional beats, all expertly delivered, but rarely accompanied by bold or risky ideas. Kelly described Michelle not just as a public figure, but as a full-scale commercial brand. Cookbooks, documentaries, merchandise, her name and likeness have been turned into marketable assets on a level comparable to pop superstars. And every new revenue stream, Kelly argued, makes it harder to see her as a genuine voice of the people. Instead, she's a voice for a carefully cultivated version of herself, one that sells exceptionally well.
He was laughing, he was yelling down to a buddy down below. They were joking, he was smiling. He was covered in dirt, to your, your life motto. And I thought, look at this guy in this dark, dank, smelly, dirty place with lots of danger. Not just this cherry picker, but also the live rail that he's working on, all the wires, having a great time. And then you look at her and she's still, they have to be billionaires by now.
Sure. Out
on the yachts, the Martha's Vineyard, $22 million estate, totally thriving young daughters who went to Harvard and USC. It's never going to be good enough. It's a mind frame, right? It's like your choice of how you're going to go through this.
Finally, Kelly broadened her aim beyond Michelle as an individual and took on the Obamas as a whole. She argued that the notion of them living quietly as private citizens is laughable. Instead, they function like a modern political dynasty, maintaining influence, preserving networks, and keeping their brand lucrative. Michelle, Kelly said, is the crown jewel of that operation, the one who can sell ideas, movements, and products with nothing more than a smile. The media, in her telling, treats every Michelle Obama appearance as historic. Every Instagram caption is a mic drop, every outfit a statement. Kelly called this a glaring double standard. If anyone else with her level of privilege tried to pass themselves off as an everyday voice, the scrutiny would be relentless. Kelly's argument was that Michelle's public charm isn't powered by pure authenticity, but by years of precise image management. The relatable anecdotes, the seemingly casual moments, even the laughter, all tested, filtered, and rehearsed to guarantee maximum admiration. She also pointed out that Michelle enjoys the kind of influence that allows her to dip in and out of political conversations without ever being forced to face the downsides of actual political office. Kelly ended by highlighting the lifestyle gap, the designer wardrobes, multi-million-dollar homes, exotic vacations, and questioning how someone living that reality can credibly speak for struggling families. She accused Michelle of mastering selective engagement, showing up just enough to maintain influence, but never so much that she risks real backlash. In Kelly's eyes, Michelle isn't just a product of political celebrity culture, she's one of its most perfected examples. From there, Kelly went after Michelle's publishing success, the book empire that's become one of the pillars of her brand. Michelle's memoir, sold as a raw and deeply personal account of her life, shattered sales records and was embraced by the media as an authentic masterpiece. But Kelly saw it differently. She described the memoir not as a vulnerable confession, but as a masterclass in branding, every anecdote carefully chosen to enhance the inspiring leader narrative, every story polished until it could be quoted on a Pinterest board. In Kelly's telling, it was less an intimate self-portrait and more a corporate-approved product, designed to protect the image while giving just enough personal detail to keep readers hooked. The most telling part? Kelly said the media didn't love the book because it broke new ground or revealed shocking truths. They loved it because it reinforced the image they'd already built for Michelle, an image so revered that few dared to question whether the story being told was the whole truth.